everybody, and welcome to yet another episode of Radiorama, where, as the name implies, I show you how to work on radios. And today we have a Motorola. And what model number are you? Because I know some people it's really important to them for some reason. Oh, the model number is missing. It's gone. The tag's gone. Maybe it's an HS-32. Man, all the stickers are gone. The UL sticker, the patent stickers, it's all gone. This was actually in a box with all the tubes out and the knobs off and the chassis loose, and it was in our free pile. We had the radio day, our thing, ways back, and no one would even take it home for free, which makes me wonder, why am I even restoring it? Someone's refinished it, and I kind of doubt that's the original Glero cloth. It looks like carpet. It doesn't look bad, but it's not the original. I've worked on these before, and I think this might have had like some sort of blonde, goldish fabric. I do not know if it works or not. Looks like we have a pilot light happening. I mean, I wonder if someone has electrically overhauled it, because seems to work and there's no humming. Tuning is stuck, so I can't turn it. But that's okay. Never trust that a radio has been restored. It's not uncommon that I'll get a set where someone who maybe was into cabinets and refinished the cabinet but left the original electronics alone. Or they did the bare minimum to get it working, like maybe they replaced the electrolytics and that was it. But I'm going to take it out and take a look, see what the situation is. And bare minimum, I need to loosen up that tuning condenser, because someone probably put 3-in-1 oil on it and it solidified. You know what I just said about never trust that a radio has been restored, even if it looks like it might have? This is definitely a case for that, because the first scenario that I mentioned is exactly the scenario that this is, which is someone refinished the cabinet, they stuck on a new cord, but they did nothing electrically to the set, because this is actually 100% original. As in, it's never been worked on. And that's kind of a good testament to the quality of some of the things like Motorola made. They were, in my opinion, they were not as appreciated as much as, say, Zenith was, but they made some good stuff. Motorola, incidentally, the inventor of the car radio, hence the name Motorola. Now, a couple of key things that are important. It would be easy to automatically assume that a set that has a power transformer is going to have all of the electrolytics go to chassis ground. That is not the case here. You can see, if it were going to chassis ground, the lugs that are holding the electrolytic can would be going through a chassis and not this plastic disc. So that means I need to preserve the original grounds. So our grounds will, for our new capacitors, will go here, here, wherever they'll fit. But they can't be chassis ground. I looked at the values on this guide. I know this is hard to see. Looks like it's saying 30, 30, and 20. It's really hard to see. All right, 20 microfarads is the unmarked one. And what I mean by that is there's these little shapes that are embossed behind. See, there's a square there. And probably the other side's going to have like a triangle or something. And then there's this one, which is not marked. That's my 20. I think for the 30s, I'm just going to put 47 microfarad caps in there, because that's what I've got on hand. I think I might have one more 20 microfarad. So each one of these lugs represents a different electrolytic capacitor inside this can. We're just going to replace this can with 3 individual electrolytics. And then, of course, all these paper caps need to go. They are completely bad. I've never measured one of these wax caps that was at all within tolerance, like not one bit. The fact that these radios still work with those in it, it's kind of remarkable. Kind of suggests maybe they aren't exactly the most sensitive / high precision made things ever. But we need to replace all these guys for reliability. You don't want any of these to short or fizzle out, because then you can have other problems. And if the right one shorts, you can do things like take out your lovely power transformer here, which would not be fun to replace. So it's cheap insurance. These things are like what? Anywhere from 10 to 20 cents a piece. Chicken feed. So let me get my new capacitors and solder them into these lugs, and then we'll test the radio just to make sure it still works. Alright, well I replaced the electrolytics and was turning this upside to test it when I realized something horrible about this radio. Someone clearly must have dropped this or something, but this shaft is so bent that it's not usable, and so I'm going to have to do an evaluation here. I need to fix this. If I can't, then the radio is not tunable or usable. Secondly, whoever replaced the cord on this did a terrible job. It's just like knotted up. I need to redo that anyway. So I'm going to take this C-clip off and pull it out and take it over to my vise and try to straighten it out. Look at that. I mean, this is not like a flimsily made part either. It's just, it's bent. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put it in my vise and try to straighten it out a little bit. I really hope it doesn't crack. If it does, I've got a welder, but it'll probably be very difficult to put this back in good order. Alright, well I got to straighten out reasonably well. It's actually got a lot of flexibility to it, so there's no threat of it cracking or anything. I mean, I wouldn't want to try to overstress it. Now I just need to restring the radio, which is going to be all kinds of fun because it's not a little on the complicated side as far as how it goes through there. Okay, well it looks like this actually has two separate strings. There's one for the indicator here and the tuning condenser, and then there's one that wraps around. It's got a little bit of, just a little bit of wobble to it, but it's fine. Anyway, we need to wrap a string around here, and then it goes around here, and then around here. I'll probably spend more time trying to figure out how that strings together than I will in this entire radio. I know it. That's how it goes. Sometimes I surprise myself. Somehow I actually got this on the first go around. So now that's all moving nicely like it should. No slippage or anything. Let's see, does that go all the way? Yeah, hard stop there. And then, yep, hard stop there. So lock to lock, it goes on both ways smoothly. And since I've replaced the electrolytics, I'll go ahead and test fire it, see where we're at. Before I test fire this, I noticed something really weird. The 20 microfarad cap just goes directly to chassis ground, which makes me think that cap is probably not used. But just because I'm not 100% sure, I'm going to disconnect it. I'm going to test the radio with just those two electrolytics to see if it still works. Oh, well, it does not need that electrolytic. I don't think it was in the circuit. They just grounded it out because it works fine.
Covering the guests I interview on your own time. Go to youtube.com/@MarkLevin Show. Dedicated channel. It's
Man, sounds pretty good. And again, we've got like 80% of the original parts still in there, so there's a ways to go before we get to our final quality as far as how this is going to perform and sound. Okay, now the fun part begins. Time to replace all these paper capacitors. They are all marked with their values. This says 0.05 microfarads at 400 volts DC. It likely will not see anything close to that, but even back then they knew that there was a significant insurging current when you first turned these sets on. So the parts needed to be greater than the sum of the the power that they were getting used by. I'm going to replace all of those with 630 volt rated caps, and there's a lot of 0.05s in here, so instead of me having to stand up and sit down, stand up and sit down and going to my cabinet of capacitors, I just got a whole bunch of these down. And just replace all the 05s because there's at least 5 or 6 in there, and then we'll replace the rest of the values, of which there's not many different kinds. In fact, this is a remarkably component slim model. And then again, you don't have to have as many capacitors in a set when you have a power transformer, because then you don't need to have as many to like clean up your AC noise coming through the set. Okay, so all the caps are now replaced. Just gonna make sure it still works. Watch it not work. It's just how it usually cookie crumbles with me. It's like I'll be too confident in myself. There's a noise for sure.
What's your question?
Common? Is this common?
Debilitating side effects and leave you feeling groggy. Finally, Danville Neuropathy Center has an exciting FDA-cleared treatment that repairs and regrows damaged nerves. Wait until you're... In fact, there was a book that was just recently came out called The Great Dechurching. But now, like your youngest, have, for whatever reason, stopped going. That's 866-311-5306 or Danville Neuropathy Center. Unfortunately, so is termite and pest season.
I think this guy needs an alignment, a realignment. It's kind of out of whack. I mean, it's mostly there, but it feels funny to me. Like it should be more sensitive than that. So, since it's recapped, we can do that. So let me flip it up. Might even need to test the tubes. Who knows? Maybe some of the tubes are weak. Well, I have to admit something. Last night I thought I had this done, and when I first tested it out, it seemed like it wasn't very sensitive. And then I realized what was happening was this was slipping. And so I had looked at it a little bit more closely, and I'd overlapped one of the strings. And it doesn't matter. Like it basically, I had somehow crossed over the second string before putting the second string together. So I had to take it all apart and do it again. So now it's turning really nicely, and it's pretty sensitive.
Call the Black Information Network hotline.
Favorite place to play.
Another fell through that hasn't gone well.
They don't love themselves.
YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter.
So I'm pretty happy with that. I'm not happy with the cord that's on it. You can see when I do this, it starts to crack. I mean, it could be fine for another 10 years, but who knows how much longer someone's going to keep using this radio, so I'm going to put a new cord on it. Okay, new cord is installed. And what I also did is I drilled a hole. There's already a hole here, I just made it a little bit bigger. And put this rubber grommet in it. Probably won't be able to do it one-handed, but anyway, I'm going to put that in there, and then I'm going to run an audio cord that will go directly to the volume control, which is this guy. And I want to stress that you do not want to do this on a hot chassis set. No, sir. That's a really bad idea. This set is isolated because it has a power transformer. But on a hot chassis set, you would not. So you would need to go through an isolation transformer. But on a set like this, I can just go directly to the volume pot. There's like no current or anything on it. And there'll be enough output from the incoming audio that it'll just automatically cut the radio signal temporarily. It's a lot easier to do versus dealing with a switch, an isolation transformer, and all the other stuff that goes along with it. Alright, we got the audio running through the top of the volume control. Got the right and left channels running through a pair of 33 ohm resistors. That splits your channels up so you get true mono. And then the other side of the audio goes to chassis ground. It's just as simple as that. And when you unplug the Bluetooth, you get your radio back.
मदर बोलती है मत करो, he says I want to do it, so that's why enmity हो जाती है.
Anyway, so now the electronic stuff is done. Like I said, someone already finished the cabinet, but there's scratches on it, so I want to kind of clean it up a little bit. Okay, all I'm doing is going over the cabinet with some feed wax made by Howard's. It's got some orange oil and beeswax and other stuff in there. It cleans up the surface, and it also kind of like hides a lot of the scratches. Like I said, this was in the free pile on radio day, and no one took it home. So it got beat up a little bit because people set stuff on top of it, which is kind of a shame, but whatever. It's actually cleaning it up pretty reasonably. I mean, no, is it like the world's most beautiful radio? No, but it's decent looking and it's decent performing. My whole plan is just to keep these guys out of the landfill, because otherwise that's where a lot of these guys would have been hitting. That's looking pretty good. I think I'll clean up the knobs and then I'll reassemble it and then we'll do a final test. I feel like YouTube keeps on changing their algorithm. Like if you just have a few seconds of music, they're like, it's copyrighted. And like I'm listening to radio, but whatever. I don't want this video to get demonetized. Well, actually I don't make any money off this thing, so who cares? But anyway, this turned out pretty good, I think. I mean, am I a fan of the finish job? No. This originally came with a blonde finish, would have looked pretty snazzy, but duplicating blonde finishes is very difficult. I've never done it, and I'm not a refinishing person. But I think for what it is, it looks decent. It's kind of a minimalist design. It's like almost a non-design. It's like a big box that has knobs, and it's a radio. But you know what? Like, I think that I've probably saved it from an untimely demise in the dump. I'll take this to one of our shows, and if no one decides to make a new home for it, then it'll go back into one of our shows or swap meets and be priced really cheap. And I just hate the idea of some of these things going to the garbage, because I'm seeing that more and more now, because there's so many people that are dying off or shrinking down their estate or whatever, and like the amount of radios that comes in is just can't keep up with it. Anyway, thanks so much for watching this episode. I know that maybe some of these later episodes have been a little bit more sloppy, and I apologize for that. My new job is taking up a lot more of my time, and so at the end of the day, I'm just kind of worn out. And so when I come out here and work on these things, it's like, ugh. But thank you so much for sticking around, and until the next time radio comes, of course, across my workbench, which I assure you will be very soon, as in like probably tomorrow. See you guys next time. Adios.